So I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Andrew Schulz's response to Kendrick appears to be to say that if he wanted to, he could rape him. Saying that, you know, the street shit, obviously he's not, you know, those guys will kill him, those guys, blah, blah, blah. But if it was just him and Kendrick, he would, quote, make love to Kendrick, and there's nothing he could do about it. And just the fact that he would say that, like, if he was trying to prove the point that white comedians like him are fucking weirdos, then he fully proved it. And it's just like, man, there's something wrong there. Like, not even gonna make like a political point, like you shouldn't say such and such about so and so unless you get permission from the whatever. Like, it's just, there's something socially wrong with that person. And not just the fact that he would say that, but the fact that he would create this situation, this room full of people to laugh and clap along with him saying something like that. And there's nobody in the room to be like, yo, you're bugging and I don't want to be on camera while you say that. It's just weird. I wonder what the response is going to be. I wonder if Kendrick is going to respond at all, because the whole point he was making is, you know, pushing back on comedians talking shit about black women. So he may just be like, well, I don't care. You can say whatever you want about me. But I don't know. That seems like the kind of thing that you would respond to. It seems like he's trying to provoke a response as well. So I don't know, man. But it's like, of all the things you could have said, man, he could have made the exact same point about how Kendrick is small. That's his whole point. But the way he says that is that he could rape Kendrick if he wants to. Like, what the actual fuck is wrong with you, bro? And these comedians really show their ass, no pun intended. Like, the second you call them out on anything, they turn into the worst version of themselves instantly. That's their weapon, is they're like, oh, I'm gonna be even weirder and stupider and more ignorant than you ever imagined I could be.
I didn't see that, but I looked it up after listening to your message there. And yeah, Jesus, I talk about a tone-deaf, shitty response. I feel like he definitely was, or is, trying to invoke a response out of Kendrick. I think he wants to keep it going for the attention, you know, the publicity from it. Because, like, going that route, saying, you know, he's gonna rape him in not so many words, but enough words, you know, it seems very specific. Like, if he had just talked about, like, beating his ass, or, you know, him being a little bitch or something like that, Kendrick probably would have risen above. I don't know. Like you said, he was talking about, you know, how he talked about black women and stuff. So maybe he just would have been like, yeah, I don't give a shit about that. You know, I'm just standing up for people, like you said. But I think Schulz going that route was specifically to put him in a place where he has to say something back to it. I mean, the hip hop community, that's kind of like one of the worst things you could say you do to somebody, right? I mean, it's much better these days, but still a little rampant with homophobia and stuff like that. So saying, as a dude, I'm going to fuck you just to, you know, put you in your place is, you know, one of the worst insults you could say, I would think, you know, other than saying you're going to do something to someone's kids or something, you know? So I think that's what he was going for. And I know he's like, tries to be like edgy and, no pun intended, but flagrant. He's like anti-cancel culture and all this other stuff. So he tries to say things that other people may not in 2024. But the way he said make love, I think he was intentionally avoiding the R word, but still wanted to put that across. So I think he's just more and more proving what a fucking weirdo he is. And I'm here for it. I want to watch him, you know, shoot himself in the foot over and over again. I would bet there was somebody that had to say something to him on that set after the camera stopped rolling. But it is kind of telling, like, what a bunch of sycophants they are.
Yeah, well, and now apparently some allegations have resurfaced about Andrew Schulz, where apparently he had a girlfriend when he was 28 and she was 16. That's supposedly the age gap there. And there is some dispute that I've seen about her age, but I guess that's pretty easy to verify how old she actually was. But regardless, even if the age wasn't an issue, this girl basically accused him of like super intense abuse. And one of the things that she said was that she was sick. She would get sick over and over for weeks and couldn't figure out why, and found out that he was using her toothbrush to clean his shoe. And like just like really sick abuse stuff. And like some of it, the other stuff was like more typical, like, you know, wiping the makeup off of her face in public, you know, like kind of that sort of like masculine type of really just insecure stuff. But, you know, she also said that there were things that she will never speak about as long as she lives. Can't remember what the girl's name is right now, but I'll look it up in a second. But yeah, so I'm not really sure if that's gonna go anywhere. I mean, obviously it didn't in the past. These allegations have come up before, but now Andrew Schulz has called a lot more attention to himself, specifically with this like weird talk. And to me, that, you know, it's an indication of exactly what I was thinking was the case with Schulz, where it's like, you don't just say something like that. It takes a really weird person. There has to be some wires crossed in you to say something like that. So it's not surprising to me at all that he has had some wildly abusive relationships in the past. The thing about the shoe and the toothbrush, though, it strikes me a little bit. That's so specific, and it's hard to picture anybody doing that. I wouldn't put it past him because, like I said, he seems like a pretty twisted guy. Maybe at the time he, like, I don't know, thought it was funny or something like that. One thing I've noticed, though, is that sometimes, and I'm not accusing this girl of lying, but one thing I've noticed is that, like, a way to make stories stick is to throw something really specific like that in there, like a really specific, shocking image that makes you like kind of like, you know, sit bolt upright and just be like, whoa, what the fuck, you know? And so the only reason I bring that up is because that is such a shocking thing for somebody to do. It's almost unbelievable that somebody would do that. But I think that's what I've kind of gathered over the years, is that it's like, you know, a lot of these characters really are that bad, and a lot of things are stranger than fiction. And, you know, a lot of times what you hear about and what you assume is going on behind closed doors is exactly what is going on behind closed doors. So we'll see. I am interested to hear if Kendrick responds, or it's, I don't know, it's a weird thing to have to respond to. And like you said, it's such an oddly emasculating thing to say, purposely emasculating thing to say, that I'm sure Kendrick is going to respond in some way, although it might not be public. He might try to contact him in some way, or have some guys go pay him a visit, something like that. I could see happening, but you know, I guess we'll find out. But Andrew Schulz might be like, cancel. You know, the Kendrick thing I didn't think was enough to do it, but that these allegations that have surfaced seem pretty fucking serious, and this girl seems like she was pretty fucked up by it. Plus, if she was 16 and he was 28 when they were dating, I mean, it's over right there. It does not get worse than that. I mean, I guess it does, but you know, it's that's in the realm of as bad as it can get.
Oh yeah, that's definitely in the realm of the worst things out there. Jesus. Yeah, I don't know. That makes so much more sense, though, that he's got that kind of mind. If he went there, if you're going towards sexual assault as a threat, I believe as well, you've got some wires crossed. That's something that even comes into your mind as a threat. There's something fucking there. And maybe it doesn't mean you would actually do it, but if that occurs to you, it speaks volumes. I don't know. I always tend to I got to read up about this. I don't know anything about this. I hadn't heard this before, but I always believe the victims at first. I think it's very important that we do that as a culture, to make sure they come forward. Victims need to know that they can speak out against their perpetrators, attackers, whatever, and it will be heard. So, you know, and unfortunately, sometimes stuff is bullshit, but the vast majority of the time it isn't, and you need to give them the benefit of the doubt in the moment. So I'm gonna believe it for now. Probably, I mean, everything else about the dude, it doesn't sound unbelievable. And, you know, the only thing that makes me think maybe there isn't something to it is that he didn't get canceled before for it. Since he's 28, I don't know how old he is, but he looks to be mid-30s, if not almost 40. So if this came out a while ago, maybe it just got buried, or maybe she recanted or whatever, but I don't know. I doubt it. It sounds like the toothbrush and shoe thing, like you said, it's so specific. And so, yeah, someone could, if they knew that, they could easily put in a detail like that to sound so specific. But also, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being a dick, but I can totally picture him sitting there, like, chuckling to himself doing that. He just strikes me as that type of shitbag. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to agree, believe her until I hear otherwise with him. And just that kind of psychological warfare of, like, messing with her toothbrush or wiping her makeup off in public and stuff like that, that is so, like, sadistic that definitely strikes me as the type of guy who would use sexually assaulting another guy as a threat. So, I don't know. It is going to be interesting to sit back and see how Kendrick responds to that specific thing, but yeah, he might get canceled before that. Or, you know, he may get canceled on the street, if you know what I mean. Speaking of cancel culture, I just keep gaining more and more respect for Jeselnik. I've always thought he was funny, but I didn't really know too much about his personal politics and stuff. I figured they were better than his on-stage persona, of course. You know, that's very clearly, you know, a very harsh version of himself, almost a character he plays on stage, obviously. And he struck me as a good dude in some of the interviews I saw, but I didn't know much about him. But listening to him on podcast recently, that guy's talking to him about his appearance on WTF. And now today, I watched I need to finish it, but he was on Breaking Bread with Tom Papa, which I haven't heard that podcast before. Tom Papa's funny. He's an alright guy. I liked him on his stuff. But he's sitting there in the first 20 seconds of the video or whatever. They do one of those things where they grab a catchy highlight from it and put that up front, then start it. So you get to it like one of those movies where it starts with an intense action scene, everything's already going on, it's crazy, and then it cuts back. Like, let me tell you how we got here. They use that tactic, which I think is very effective. But in that alone, he says, I hate when comics complain about cancel culture. I hate when they complain in general. But especially cancel culture. We're in the second comedy boom. Everyone's making more money than they ever did before. And he points out, you know, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he points out Dave Chappelle. He's like, you know, Dave Chappelle made an insane amount of money. He's won every award there is. He's still, you know, touring and doing all this stuff. And, you know, you hear him complaining about cancel culture making his job harder. He's like, maybe it shouldn't be that easy. If you're going to make that much money, it probably should be a little hard. And, you know, I have never really thought about it that way. I always, you know, laugh at people can't complain about cancel culture and find it frustrating too. But it's a really good point. A lot of these people making so much fucking money, you know, you should have to earn it. It shouldn't be super easy. I got to listen to the rest of that, but you should check it out. I think you'd like it from the first 20 minutes, half hour I've seen.
Yeah, I've heard some of Jeselnik's recent statements about cancel culture. I think he's right. I think it is a little bit tired at this point. The whole, both angles are tired. The whole cancel culture angle is tired, and then also the counter angle of like, cancel culture is not, you know, we all make millions of dollars saying what we want to say. It's like, yeah, yes, that's true. And I agree with Jeselnik on that. But I do think it sort of misses the point a little bit when people are complaining about cancel culture. I think there's a kernel of truth there where I don't think we see it as much today. I think things have cooled out. But I think, you know, you go back a few years, and I do think that there was there was this sort of rapid response that would happen because of social media and stuff. And a lot of times it would be before all the information got out. And I guess I'm thinking more in terms of like, you know, sexual allegations or whatever, you know, but even if you look at a joke, right? Somebody says a joke and then everybody freaks out about it. It's not like it's just negative feedback. I mean, at least for a while, there was a point where it was like, you know, you could legitimately lose all of your business connections just because you said the wrong thing. And it wasn't necessarily because what you said was so horrible. It was because of the sudden, enormous pressure that would be put on these entities that you do business with because of the social media backlash, where all of a sudden it's like, you know, you say one thing that's offensive and you've lost your entire reputation and livelihood because of it. You know, and there's definitely some exaggeration that takes place, and most of the people who have been, quote, canceled are still around. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't go anywhere, but to act like somebody like Louis C.K., you know, to act like nothing happened to him because of the allegations that surfaced, or to act like there wasn't like maybe a little bit of an overreaction, or an unnecessary humiliation that took place, I think maybe misses the mark a little bit. But the flip side of that is that, you know, what Louis did was really fucking gross, and you know, he probably deserved to be taken down several pegs in the entertainment industry because of it. Like, you know, he built this career, a pretty enormous career, and, you know, nobody had ever really acknowledged that there were these creepy things in his past, and that had totally derailed the lives of some of these young female comedians, and he was in a position of power even back then. And so it's like, when those things come to light, it makes sense that would, you know, knock you down a few pegs. But all of this is to say that, you know, I think Jeselnik is right. I like the sort of angle that he's taking, and he seems to be alienating himself from most of the comedy community by saying this stuff, which I think is, you know, I respect that level of don't give a fuck, you know, and I like that he's standing on what he believes. And he's probably like, I don't need any of these fucks to get money. I have my own career. I have all the money that I need, and, you know, I have whatever business ties I need, so I don't give a fuck if the rest of the comedy community doesn't like me. You know, and so he's pointing out that he thinks they're toxic and they suck, and, you know, I agree with him. I think anybody who thinks about it for more than a few seconds arrives at the same conclusion that he does, where it's like, yeah, maybe there might be some consequences if you say a certain joke or whatever, or you take the same tired angle on trans people or whatever it is, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it shouldn't be that easy that you just collect a handful of bigoted remarks and spew them out, and, you know, you have a massive comedy career because of that. Maybe there should be a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about even complaining about people complaining about cancel culture being a little tired, and there definitely were, especially right when the Me Too movement took off, some people that got swept up unfairly in that. I even have worked with people that were accused of things that I know for a fact they didn't do and stuff like that. It happens. But for me, I just really hate the complaining about cancel culture so much, because one, the Me Too movement was obviously, you know, very important and a good thing. People abusing people at all need to be called out. And for so long, especially in any kind of entertainment, show business, you know, it just ran so fucking rampant. Look at the stuff like Weinstein did, and, you know, every head of a studio and everyone who was in a position of power on a production, or every kind of person like that, every kind of production and stuff like that would have people. It was like an open secret that those kind of things went on. That was another point I was going to say about the thing with the girl accusing Schulz, was that, you know, maybe he didn't do it since he didn't get canceled originally. Maybe something came out, or she turned out to not be credible or whatever. But there were so many people for so long that got away with shit, and stuff would come out about him. Like, people knew about that stuff with Cosby. I mean, Hannibal Buress didn't know these women personally. It was an open secret. The Louis C.K. thing, you know, we heard about that, a year or two before it went into the media, when it really came out, like it does exist. So the Me Too movement is very important for getting those kind of people outed, and I think cancel culture should exist for those kinds of things. And when it comes to like hack jokes and people saying, well, because cancel culture, I can't even make any jokes anymore, and everyone's too woke, you can't be funny, is the most hacky thing to say. And you never should have punched down or written hack jokes, but you can make a joke about anything. It's just very clear when it comes from a place of hate or bigotry or whatever. But on the other hand, it does go too far sometimes, and it is getting a little old at this point. I think most people know you can make jokes, and it's starting to become very clear and easy to suss out who's just a fucking hack and bigot and wants to be able to openly be that, and is just salty they can't anymore.
Also, too, and I've said this before, but the thing with cancel culture for me that I feel like everybody misses is that, like, I think a huge part of it is social media and the fact that it's literally designed that way. It's literally designed to make you behave that way. And so a lot of the big controversies that we saw, whether there were overreactions, whether there weren't, whatever, it's like a lot of it was fueled by social media and the fact that, like, those companies profit off of the engagement that comes from huge out of nowhere stories like that. And I think around, between 2016 and 2020, a little bit after, that element of social media went completely unchecked. And I think the reason things have cooled out a little bit is because they realize that they have some culpability and even some liability there. It's like, if people are getting completely dogpiled, losing millions of dollars, in some cases, there's potential for worse things to happen to them. Maybe not so much celebrities. I don't think anybody ever got like really hurt or attacked by anybody or something, but on a small level down the line, it's like, you had this sort of cancel culture behavior that was sort of roiling all kinds of smaller communities, including Cincinnati. There was that Cincinnati DIY page, which I was never on, but that, started as a cool place for like bands to communicate with each other and talk about shows and find different like solutions when it comes to equipment and stuff like that. That's what it was for. And it just devolved into this like mudslinging because it was all of these different cancellations. And it's like, it makes sense when you think about it because, and I'm not even going to get into like the specifics. Obviously, many of those people did something wrong. Some of them didn't. I don't even fucking know. I wasn't that deep in that community. I was never really on that page, but I do kind of remember when it was a thing, and it feels like it started to tear apart the community a little bit. And I think that that's a microcosm of what social media does in general. And it's like, it turns you and your friends and the people in your community into forms of content. And so all of a sudden you're seeing images of people someone that you have a prior relationship with or whatever, and you're seeing their face and it's attached to whatever the allegations are. Sometimes they're very specific, clearly true allegations, or like, readily verified allegations. Sometimes it's more just like vague shit that's sort of thrown out there. But either way, it creates this reaction in you because you're like, oh, I know this person, what the fuck? And it's something you can participate in. It's sort of a bandwagon that you can hop on, and you can contribute to this groundswell of whatever, canceling this person, pushing them out of a community, ending someone's comedy career, whatever the fuck it is. It's an interactive thing. And I think while there's an element of human nature there, it's also something that social media was specifically designed to do, and they knew that they designed their engines that way. And I think that they realized that they had to like cool that out a little bit. And I think that people let the social media companies get off the hook with that shit. Like, people totally miss the forest for the trees because they focus on the allegations, they focus on whether cancel culture is real or not, and not on the fact that it's like, hey, we're all using these social media engines that are like driving our behaviors in these directions. And it's like not only kind of weird and dystopian, but also these motherfuckers are making so much money off of this behavior.
Wow, I forgot all about Cincy DIY. That is one of the giant bursts of outrage. One of the social media effects, I feel like that it does happen, is kind of like the binge watching Netflix effect thing, where, you know, a show comes out with an entire season at once, drops it on the same day, you watch all of it in a day or two, binge through it, and then just it falls out of your memory. You just completely forget it. I think that happens sometimes with those kinds of things. Like, I completely forgot about all that drama, but it's a really good point about social media being engineered to do that. You know, obviously it started for like advertisement and stuff like that, and engagement being measured in different ways, taught them different things, and it got worse and worse over the years and hit a tipping point to where they had to start being held accountable. But I didn't really think about how that played into cancel culture in that aspect before. I'm gonna have to ruminate on that a little. I've definitely thought about how it's played into people's politics and belief in conspiracies, or just how they react to huge tragedies and stuff like that. And I've definitely been a victim of it. I've definitely played into it, and I've been played like a fiddle before and stuff like that. But I guess that's true about cancel culture too. Social media really is just the fucking worst, isn't it? And I have no intention of stopping using it either.